Chapter 105. Watching as Zheng Yifan led the God Might Battalion soldiers away, Feng Jixing heaved a sigh of relief and turned to ask, "Grand Deacon, are you all right?" Lei Hong's complexion was extremely pale. He suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, and the gray hair on his head instantly turned even whiter. "Grand Deacon!" Zhang Wei and the others rushed over. Lin Muyu also broke free from the beast-binding chains and held onto Lei Hong's arm. "Grandpa Lei Hong, are you all right?" Lei Hong's expression was gloomy. "Everyone thinks that the Empire's two sanctuary masters are me and Chu Chu. I'm afraid. The Empire's most powerful sanctuary master is already Zheng Yifan." Feng Jixing asked, "Is Zheng Yifan really that strong?" "Yes." Lei Hong nodded and then smiled at Lin Muyu. Since His Majesty has pardoned you and Chu Yao, then you can finally use your real identity to establish yourself in the Divine Sanctum and the Imperial Capital." Lin Muyu nodded, "Yes. Thank you Grandpa Lei Hong and thank you Big Brother Feng." Feng Jixing continued to nod. "I'm afraid this may not be a good thing. How about I go see His Majesty and ask His Majesty to bestow you the identity of a royal guard. This way the Divine Marquis residents will have to think twice before doing anything to you. What do you think?" "Can I?" Lin Muyu did not refuse. Lei Hong shook his head. "No, you as our Divine Sanctum's rising star. How can we just hand him over to the royal guards? No, I won't agree no matter what." Feng Jixing could not help but smile. Grand Deacon is really stubborn. Not long after, a group of medical officers from the Elixir Department came to treat the Divine Sanctum's injured people, and in the end Chu Yao also came. When she saw the heavily injured Lin Muyu, her eyes turned red. "What happened?" she asked as she helped Lin Muyu clean her wounds. Lin Muyu sat on the stone block of the sacred hall. She grimaced in pain and said with a smile, "Sister Chu Yao, we don't have to hide anymore. His Majesty has pardoned our crimes." "Really?" Chu Yao revealed a cheerful smile, but she was a little unhappy as she said, You're always fighting and killing. Look at yourself, how many scars are there on your body? Promise me that you won't fight so much in the future, okay? And as long as people don't offend me, I won't offend them." "All right." On the side, Zhang Wei, who was being treated by another Elixir Department medical officer, looked at the two of them with a dubious expression. He said with a smile, "Sire, Lin Muyu is really lucky with women. He actually has such a beautiful medical officer treating his wounds and they look so compatible." Chu Yao's pretty face immediately flushed red. She glared at Zhang Wei and said, "You're still so arrogant after such a serious injury. I think there's no need to apply medicine." Zhang Wei repeatedly begged for mercy. "Please don't. If I don't apply medicine, my wounds will probably become inflamed and rot." "Humph, I'll teach you to keep your mouth shut," Chu Yao said with a smile. Zhang Wei was immediately enchanted. He said, "Sire Lin Muyu, if I had such a good sister, I would definitely take her as my wife. How could I let someone else have such a beautiful sister?" Chu Yao's face turned even redder. "You're still talking too much." Lin Muyu sat at the side and looked at Chu Yao's bashful beauty. He was a little tempted, but he knew that he didn't belong to this world and might have to leave. If he couldn't take Chu Yao with him, then why bother messing with her heart? However, this silly boy probably didn't know that the beauty's heart was already messed up. They only rested for the night. Their injuries were too serious, so they could only lie down and cultivate the dragon forging bone remnant scroll and the spirit vein technique. Lying on the bed and looking at the starry sky above the secret room, Lin Muyu's eyes widened. The spiritual energy of the spirit vein technique rippled outwards. The spirit vein technique was indeed very magical. An attack that gathered spiritual energy could attack the enemy's soul, but it also required concentration. Thus, the moment Zheng Yifan stepped into the holy palace, Lin Muyu tried to attack him with the spirit vein technique. Unfortunately, it failed. Zheng Yifan's soul was stronger than his, and so was his domain. Using the spirit vein technique to fight against such an expert would require a higher cultivation. Moreover, today's battle allowed Lin Muyu to truly understand the power of the sacred region. A heavenly realm expert challenging a sacred region expert was no different from courting death. Once the opponent's domain was activated, a heavenly realm expert would be unable to move at all. There was no chance of winning. But how far away was the sacred region? No one knew. Ever since Lin Muyu stepped into the first tier of the heavenly realm, she had been stuck at level 60. Cultivation was not easy and there were bottlenecks everywhere. As a result, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and the others were stuck at the first tier of the heavenly realm, unable to break through. Experts like these could be found everywhere. Lei Hong, Chu Chu, and the others had also been stuck at the first tier of the sacred region for more than 10 years. Late at night, Zetian Palace. A beautiful palace maid was sitting gracefully on a white jade bed. Beside her was an exquisite drawing board. The celestial emperor, Qin Jin, was waving his brush and sketching a beautiful woman's expression and face on the white paper. Although Qin Jin was the great emperor, he was also known as the divine hand by the world. He was a master of calligraphy and paintings. Legend had it that the great emperor had once ordered his personal officials to sell his landscape paintings to the people, and they would always fetch a high price. However, the graceful woman on the drawing board seemed to be completely different from the palace maid in front of her. The beauty between her brows was not something this palace maid could compare to. This painting did not look like her at all. Instead, it had a bit of Qin Yin's charm. Creak. The door was gently pushed open and Qin Yin walked over to stand behind Qin Jin. She looked at the drawing board and suddenly burst into laughter. Imperial father is drawing Imperial mother again. Qin Jin was taken aback. He could not help but laugh. Xiao Yin, why aren't you sleeping? I couldn't sleep so I came to see father. Hurry up and go to sleep. How can a girl stay up so late? Qin Jin waved his hand, indicating for the palace maid to leave. Qin Yin smiled. Father, do I really look like mother? Yes, you look almost exactly the same. Qin Jin looked out the window with some fascination and said, after she left, Imperial father's everything has been left to you. Come, let Imperial father comb your hair again. Once you're done you can go back to sleep. Yes. Qin Yin obediently sat in front of the bronze mirror. She took off the princess crown on her hair and let her jet black hair fall down. Qin Jin took the silver comb and looked at his daughter's appearance in the bronze mirror. He could not help but tremble. He said in a daze, it's been so many years. If only I could see her one more time. I'm willing to exchange the world for one more look at her. Qin Yin's eyes reddened. Father. Qin Jin slowly combed through his daughter's hair. His face was full of doting love as he said, my Xiao Yin has grown up. When you were very young, I always wondered how long father would be able to stay by your side. But Xiao Yin has grown up so quickly and is about to get married. There will be another person by Xiao Yin's side to dote on and love you in father's place. Tears welled up in Qin Yin's eyes. She closed her eyes and let the tears flow freely. Qin Jin's hands trembled slightly. He muttered to himself, time really passes too quickly. In the blink of an eye you've grown up so much. I don't know why, father. Father always feels that I haven't seen enough of you before you've grown up and gotten married. Qin Yin's shoulders trembled slightly. Father, don't say any more. I won't get married. Qin Jin could not help but laugh. Don't be silly. Even if you're a princess you still have to get married. Otherwise how will you continue to pass on our Qin bloodline? Father is just a little emotional. Xiao Yin, who do you like the most among the younger generation of the family? Qin Yin was stunned. She wiped her tears and said, I'm still young and don't want to get married. Father, don't ask me. Xiao Yin won't marry anyone. You're saying silly things again. Qin Lei, Qin Yan and Zhenan Wang's sons. If you like any one of them, father will bestow marriage. You're already 20 years old. When your mother was 20 she would have already married me and become my empress. I'm not getting married. Let's wait a few more years. Qin Yin's eyes were red. I don't like any of the people father mentioned. I want to accompany father for a few more years, okay? Silly Xiao Yin. Qin Jin sighed. At this time a eunuch's voice came from outside. Your Majesty, Imperial Guard Commander Feng Jixing requests an audience. Let him in. Yes. Soon the door opened. Feng Jixing was travel-worn. He knelt down and cupped his fists. This general greets your Majesty. Qin Jin smiled. General Feng must have something important for you to request an audience so late at night, right? Feng Jixing nodded. Your Majesty, an hour ago, Divine Marquis led 3,000 Divine Might Battalion cavalry to attack the Sage Temple. What? Qin Jin's body trembled. How is that possible? The Divine Marquis residence and the Sage Temple are the pillars of the Empire. Why would they fight each other? What was the result, General Feng? Feng Jixing said, By the time I arrived, the battle had already stopped. Both sides suffered dozens of casualties, and the reason for the battle was that Divine Marquis wanted to kill Lin Muyu. Therefore, I beg your majesty to allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guard. Qin Jin frowned. What kind of person is this Lin Muyu? Why would General Feng recommend her like this? Feng Jixing raised his head and said, "From what I know, Lin Muyu is a martial arts prodigy that only appears once in 1,000 years. Such a person should be used by the Empire and must not be killed by the deity overlord. I hope that your majesty will allow Lin Muyu to join the Royal Forest Guards." The corners of Qin Yin's lips curled up. "Father, will you allow it?" Hearing his daughter's words, Qin Jin calmed down. "Very well, I will write an edict immediately to allow Lin Muyu to become a member of the Royal Forest Guard. General Feng, thank you for your hard work." "Thank you, your majesty." As he spoke, Feng Jixing lifted his head to look at Qin Jin. He said in a low voice, "Your majesty, the Divine Marquis Residence's actions are getting more and more aggressive. They even dared to clash with the Sage Temple. Are we just going to tolerate them? I feel that if necessary we can transfer the 100,000 soldiers guarding Songnan province back to the capital. I am willing to do this personally." Qin Jin took a deep breath. Zheng Yifan is the pillar of the empire. Currently, more than half of the commanders in the various armies are former subordinates of Zheng Yifan. As long as he doesn't go overboard, let him be. After all, if the northern desert and the southern barbarians go to war, we still need Zheng Yifan to lead the army. Isn't that right, General Feng? But Feng Jixing's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. There are no buts. General Feng, rest early. Come and get the edict tomorrow morning. Yes, your majesty. He turned and left the Zetian Hall. The starlight shone on Feng Jixing's pure white cloak. He pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and looked up at the sky in silence. Then he walked alone on the stone path of the hall. Under the starlight, his lonely figure looked somewhat lonely. Chapter 106. The next day, Gu Yang and Lei Hong sat opposite each other in the tea pavilion of the Holy Temple. They held a cup of tea presented by Ling Nan and closed their eyes to savor the aroma of the tea. Lei Hong sat cross-legged on the opposite side, a faint dou qi enshrouding his body. The battle with Zheng Yifan had caused him serious injuries and he was still channeling his dou qi to heal himself. "How is it?" Gu Yang opened his eyes and asked. Lei Hong opened his eyes slowly and said, "My internal injuries have basically healed. The medicine from the spiritual medicine department is very effective, but the hidden injuries in my meridians have not been completely healed. I miscalculated. The last time I fought with Zheng Yifan was more than 10 years ago. He was merely a first-level Heaven Realm martial artist back then. I didn't expect him to have cultivated into the holy domain in these 10 years. Moreover, Zheng Yifan's Ice Soul tactics has become even more powerful." Gu Yang smiled slightly. "Don't worry. We were caught off guard last time. We'll be better prepared next time. I've already applied for 200 archers from the Imperial Army to be appointed as Holy Temple guards. Even if Zheng Yifan comes again, his Ice Soul tactics may not be able to withstand thousands of arrows, right? Yes, that's the only way." At this moment, a Holy Temple guard passed through the green vine-filled corridor and said respectfully, "Great Deacon General Qin Lei, the commander of the Imperial Army from the Zetian Temple, requests an audience." "Qin Lei?" Lei Hong was startled and said, "Invite him in." "Yes." Not long after, Qin Lei, dressed in a white robe, entered the hall with a few Imperial guards. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Junior Qin Lei greets Great Deacon Lei Hong." Lei Hong stood up and said with a smile, "General Qin Lei has come to visit. I wonder what's the matter?" "It's about Lady Lin Muyu." "Oh." Lei Hong squinted his eyes. "What happened to you?" Qin Lei touched the back of his head and smiled awkwardly. "His Majesty has already spoken to allow Lin Muyu to join the Imperial Army as a member of the Holy Temple and become one of the 200 Imperial Guards. This is His Majesty's handwritten decree." "What?" Lei Hong was so angry that his beard flew up. He smashed the tea table beside him with one palm and glared. This is too much. Did His Majesty ask for my opinion? Ayu is the most outstanding talent among the younger generation of the temple. I have high hopes for him, so why should the royal army hand him over to them just because they want to? No, I, Lei Hong, will never allow you to become a member of the Imperial Guard. Qin Lei grinned and became even more embarrassed. He cupped his fists and said respectfully, Grand Deacon, please don't be angry. Actually, His Majesty has also considered that you are not willing to let you leave the Holy Temple, so His Majesty has said that you cannot leave the Holy Temple and at the same time hold the position of a royal guard. Every month he can enter the Zetian Palace to hold the position of a royal guard for half a month and continue to hold the position of a gold star sparring master in the Holy Temple for the remaining half a month. Really? Lei Hong glared at Qin Lei and said, Young Prince Qin Lei, don't lie to me. Qin Lei could not help but laugh. How would this junior dare to lie to Grand Deacon? His Majesty has already approved that after you becomes a royal guard, he can wear the badge of the Holy Temple in the Imperial Palace. Furthermore, you's official rank will belong to the Holy Temple and not the royal army. All the glory and achievements will belong to the Holy Temple. What does Grand Deacon think? That's more like it. Lei Hong then leisurely stroked his beard and said with a smile, Deacon Guyang, go call you over and instruct him on this matter. Then let him pack up and follow General Qin Lei to the Zetian Palace to report. However, he must return to the Holy Temple in half a month. He is a member of the Holy Temple and must take root in the Holy Temple. If he is not willing to return, this old man will not have the face to look for His Majesty to ask for him. Guyang held back his laughter and cupped his fists. Yes, Grand Deacon. Qin Lei respectfully stood to the side. The morning sun shone upon the waterside pavilion. Lei Hong continued to drink his tea. Perhaps he was in a fit of anger, but he did not ask Qin Lei to sit down, nor did he look at the tea. However, Qin Lei was a junior, so he did not mind. He held the lightning split blade and respectfully waited on the side. Lei Hong and Chu Chu were known as the two founding fathers of the empire. His fiery temper had always been famous throughout the world. Lei Hong did not dare to pluck the hair from the tiger's butt. Not long after, Lin Muyu, dressed in the white robes of the Holy Temple, appeared in the waterside pavilion corridor. His steps were steady as he respectfully smiled and said something to Guyang. As he walked closer, he naturally understood what was about to happen. Lei Hong looked at him with a burning gaze, saying, Are you willing to join the Royal Guard? Guyang said from the side, Once you join the Royal Guard, your identity will change. You will become a general under the Emperor. This is a supreme honor and you will directly obey the Emperor's orders. This also means, the Divine Marquis Residence and the Divine Might Battalion will not be able to do anything to you. Lin Muyu understood the good intentions of the two grandfathers. He cupped his fists and said, Lin Muyu is willing to follow the arrangements. Good. Lei Hong squinted his eyes and smiled. Becoming a royal guard is the dream of every cultivator in the world. Imperial Guard Master Feng Jixing has personally recommended you to His Majesty. Do not disappoint Master Feng Jixing's painstaking efforts. However, Grandpa has to tell you that you will forever be a member of the Holy Temple. From the day you entered the Holy Temple, your soul has been branded by the Holy Temple. Therefore, no matter how high you fly, no matter how far you go, you will eventually return to the Holy Temple. Do you understand you? Lin Muyu's body trembled. Determination appeared in his eyes and he said, Grandpa Lei Hong, don't worry. The Holy Temple is my home. I will return. Good. Pack up and go. Yes. Qin Lei lightly patted Lin Muyu's shoulder from the side, hugged him and affectionately said with a smile, Good brother, we can work together in the future. It's really a good thing that the Imperial Forest Guard has such a peculiar expert with a gourd martial spirit like you. Lin Muyu. In the afternoon, after packing up everything, Guyang gifted the warhorse that Lin Muyu rode the most to him. Therefore, Lin Muyu carried the prairie fire sword on his back and held the pear blossom spear wrapped in black cloth in his hand. He flipped onto the horse and followed Qin Lei and the others out of the Holy Temple. Lei Hong, Guyang, Zhang Wei and the others saw him off at the entrance of the Holy Temple. Zhang Wei cupped his fists and said, Master Lin Muyu, we will meet again. Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and said, Master Zhang Wei, work hard. I will. The so-called friendship between gentlemen was probably like this. Lin Muyu and Zhang Wei had never been to places like taverns, but there was a kind of brotherhood between them that they could entrust their lives to each other. This kind of friendship between men was something that women could not understand. After saying their goodbyes one by one, They passed through Tongtian Street and went straight to the Zetian Palace. When they crossed the Zetian Temple's moat, 3 consecutive dong 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 sounds of war drums could be heard. It seemed to be to welcome the new member Lin Muyu. Qin Lei carried the thunder-split blade and walked slowly. Along the way, the royal guard on both sides successively knelt down on one knee and gave a military salute. The atmosphere was extremely solemn. In the Zetian Temple, Qin Lei was like a mighty general. No one could be compared to him. Not even the commander of the Imperial Guard, Feng Jixing. After all, the people of the mainland paid attention to bloodline. Qin Lei had the blood of the royal family while Feng Jixing was born as a commoner. Because you are a staff member of the Holy Temple, the ceremony for you to be conferred as a royal guard was personally hosted by His Majesty. Let's go, we will go to the side hall of the Zetian Temple. His Majesty is already waiting there. Yes, yes. Lin Muyu could not help but feel a little apprehensive. This was the second time he was meeting the Emperor Qinjin, right? However, he was also a little expectant. In his mind, the beautiful face of the little princess Qin Yin appeared. Would he be able to see Qin Yin this time? Although he had only met Qin Yin twice, this amiable, adorable and lively heir of the family seemed to have left a beautiful mark in his heart, one that he would never forget for the rest of his life. Dong dong dong. The war drums sounded again. Along the way of the side hall there were royal guards everywhere. There were a total of 7,000 royal guards in the imperial capital. Among them, 200 of the most outstanding ones were known as the royal guards. Those who could protect the emperor and the princess at close range were also royal guards. This was a special honor, an honor that normal royal guards could not hope to achieve. Although Lin Muyu came from another world and the world in his heart was much bigger than the people here, he was also much more unrestrained. However, at this moment, looking at the endless palace pavilions and buildings and the scene of guards in the forest, he was still shocked. This world seemed to be a deep quagmire that kept twisting and twisting, sucking him in and making him sink deep into it. Qin Lei walked at the front, the white cloak behind him swaying. There was a golden-purple flower embroidered on it. This was the symbol of the white-robed royal guards. The outstanding ones among the 200 royal guards were known as the white-robed royal guards. There were only a few of them in the entire empire. In the main hall of the side hall, the Emperor Qinjin sat on the dragon throne in an imposing manner. He looked at the group of generals and royal guards below him with a calm gaze. Lin Muyu had already seen Feng Jixing wherever he looked. Big brother Feng Jixing's expression was very serious. The moment their eyes met, he grinned, causing Lin Muyu's anxious heart to calm down a lot. He knew that it did not matter how deep the waters in this Zetian Palace were because there were 2 brothers here. Qin Lei walked forward, cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, I have brought Lin Muyu here." Qin Jin nodded. "Announce the imperial edict." The eunuch at the side walked forward, unfolded a golden scroll and said in a clear voice, "Lin Muyu, commoner, gold star sparring master of the divine temple, cultivation of the first level of the heaven state. Due to your meritorious service in protecting Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest, you can be specially pardoned to join the royal guards and be bestowed with the title of third-class nobility. You will take up the position of sergeant in the royal guards and temporarily be listed as a member of the Tiger Guards. I hope that you will be able to serve the empire wholeheartedly in the future and be loyal to the Qin family." Qin Lei hinted with his gaze and said in a low voice, "Silly boy, hurry up and accept the imperial edict to express your gratitude." Lin Muyu was stunned. How would he know so much etiquette? He walked forward and received the imperial edict. Then he gave an empire's military salute to Qin Jin, who was on the throne, and said respectfully, "Lin Muyu swears to be loyal to the family and will never betray it." Logically speaking, after becoming a royal guard, one should have done 9 bows, but Lin Muyu did not do so. Instead, he bowed to the emperor in the manner of a soldier. Qin Jin could not help but feel a little displeased by this. He frowned and said, "Lin Muyu, why did you swear to be loyal to the family? Is it because of me?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Jin's gaze became increasingly sharp, piercing through his soul like a sharp arrow. He said, "Tell me the truth. Don't lie. What is the reason for you swearing loyalty to the Qin family?" Lin Muyu raised his head to look at Qin Jin. Their gazes met and he did not back down. After a few seconds he said calmly, "I am willing to swear loyalty to the family for Her Highness Qin Yin." Chapter 107. When Lin Muyu said for Qin Yin, the group of generals was stunned. Many of them were already sweating on behalf of this silly boy. After all, the current emperor was still Qin Jin. However, he actually said that he was only loyal to the family for the sake of the next successor. This inevitably angered the emperor. Even Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and thought to himself, damn, this silly boy is going to stir up a hornet's nest, he's so honest. However, what everyone didn't expect was that Qin Jin wasn't angry at all. Instead, he stood up and held on to the emperor's sword. He smiled and said, well said. I remember this. For the sake of Her Highness Qin Yin, you must never betray the family. Yes, your majesty. All right, go. Yes. Qin Lei secretly wiped his sweat and smiled as he said, rascal, let's go. Follow me to the imperial army's camp. All right. After leaving the side hall, the group went straight to the imperial army's camp. The camp was inside the palace. Everyone leapt onto their horses and galloped away. Not long after, a building made of green bricks and tiles appeared in front of them. The imperial army's camp was far more luxurious than the imperial army's camp. In fact, a part of the palace's building had been split off to serve as the camp. The status of the imperial army in the capital was evident from this. The central tent was set up in the central hall. Qin Lei leapt off his horse and led Lin Muyu into the hall. From afar he saw a familiar face walking towards them. It was Chu Huayin. You've finally joined the imperial army. Chu Huayin laughed. Lin Muyu was a little embarrassed. Brother Chu, we're working together now. It's just that after joining the imperial army, I'm afraid that I won't be able to visit Sister Tu Yao much more often. That won't happen. Why? He was puzzled. Chu Huayin smiled mysteriously and said, because you've just joined the imperial army. Qin Lei laughed and sat on the general's seat. He said, head of the army, get the name list. Very quickly, a person dressed in official robes took out a file and said, head of the imperial army, please instruct me. Qin Lei stood up and said, Lin Muyu, squad leader of the imperial guards. His Majesty personally conferred him the title of Tiger Guard. Since he has joined the imperial guards for less than 3 months, so he has been temporarily arranged to carry out missions in the inspection office. His military rank is Centurion, and he commands 100 imperial guards cavalry. Lin Muyu was stunned. He had no idea what Qin Lei was talking about. Chu Huayin smiled and patted his shoulder. Good lad, not bad. You managed to become a centurion of the imperial army after entering Zhe Tian Palace. When I first entered, I started from the rank of corporal. Lin of Qin Lei, Lin Muyu hoof, head of Lei, Chu Muyu smiled. Head. I see. Qin Lei held onto the hilt of his battle blade and said, there are a total of 204 people in the Imperial Guard, and they are divided into 3 types of positions. The first rank is the Dragon Guard, and there are a total of 70 people. They are dedicated to protecting His Majesty and Her Highness the Princess, but they must have been a member of the Imperial Guard for at least 3 years. The second rank is the Tiger Guard, and there are a total of 61 people. They are responsible for the safety and defense of the surroundings of Zhe Tian Hall, and you are one of the Tiger Guards. Finally, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army. You are a member of the Tiger Guard. Lastly, the third is the Eagle Guard. They are responsible for patrolling the surroundings of the Imperial Army and protecting the safety of the Imperial City. As for the inspection office, it's actually just an external department. It's responsible for patrolling the perimeter of the Zhe Tian Hall and the defense of Tongtian Street every day. It's not a big deal, just maintaining public order. This is the only way to become a Dragon Guard. Look, Feng Jixing and I started out as Tiger Guards. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He cupped his fists and said, yes, I understand. Good. Qin Lei sat down again and looked at the files on the table. He then raised his head and said, Chu Huayin, bring you to report to the inspection office. Help him collect 3 sets of armor for the Imperial Army while you are at it. Yes, General. Chu Huayin bowed respectfully. No matter how good his relationship with Qin Lei was, he always had to be respectful in the military camp. This was the rule. The military officer sent over 3 sets of armor. They were all the attire of the Imperial Army. However, Lin Muyu had special permission. Thus he could only wear the Holy Temple's battle robe in the imperial palace. Come put this on. Zhou Xian was like an elder brother as he personally embedded 2 military insignia on the collar of his armor. It was a silver military insignia with the image of a mighty tiger's head. It represented the Tiger Guard and behind it were 3 silver stars. This was also the standard insignia of a centurion of the empire. At this moment, Lin Muyu was already considered a mid-level general in the army. Let's go. Zhou Xian mounted his horse and looked at him meaningfully with a smile. He said, however you must be very careful. The supervisor of the inspection office is Sir Bai Fan. You must be very careful when carrying out missions in the inspection office. You must not provoke Sir Bai Fan. Otherwise he won't let you off easily. Ah? Lin Muyu was startled. He secretly thought that it was indeed not easy to mingle around. He thought that he would have nothing to do after entering Zhou Xian Palace. He didn't expect that he would still have to fawn over his superiors here. Not far away, a group of Imperial Army guards wearing white robes galloped over. After they got closer, they all dismounted and stood in a row to salute Lin Muyu. The person in the lead said, I am Wei Chou. I have brought 9 brothers from the Imperial Army to report. Sir Lin Muyu, from now on, you are our direct superior general. We will follow you to the inspection office to report. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly rejoice. This Wei Chou looked upright and outspoken, and there was a heroic spirit between his brows. It was a gift from the heavens to have such subordinates. She nodded and said, all right, let's set off now. Yes. Zhou Xian didn't send them off too far. He was on duty today and had to continue patrolling the palace. Thus, Lin Muyu and the others went to the inspection office on their own. The sound of horse hooves reverberated throughout the imperial city. At the outermost area of the Zhou Xian Palace, there was a group of buildings that appeared to be of a simple and unadorned style. They looked exceptionally majestic, and there were 3 large words written on a horizontal board. Inspection Division. Lin Muyu held a document in her hand and led 10 Imperial Army guards in. She said to the guard, the new Tiger Guard Lin Muyu has led 10 Imperial Army guards to await orders. A voice came from the hall. So it's Lin Muyu who has graced the inspection office. Come in. Yes. Lin Muyu lifted her battle robe and stepped over the high black threshold into the inspection office. She looked up and saw 2 rows of Imperial Army guards lined up on both sides with solemn expressions. At the end of the hall was a steel table, and a general with a long beard was sitting there. He looked up at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, I've long heard of Lin Muyu's great name. It's an honor to see you with my own eyes today. Lin Muyu pays her respects to Lord Bai Fan. Lin Muyu was still very respectful. Bai Fan nodded and said, Lin Muyu, our inspection office originally had a total of 5 teams. Including your team today, there will be 6 teams. Each team needs to carry out missions for 10 days every month. Your team will be responsible for patrolling Tongtian Street for the next 7 days. Do you understand? Yes. All right. Bai Fan suddenly smiled and said, I heard that you once saved Her Highness Qin Yin in the dragon-seeking forest? Yes. Heh. Bai Fan stood up and cupped his hands with a smile. It seems that Lord Lin Muyu is the savior of the future crown prince. This humble Bai Fan greets you. Lin Muyu couldn't help but feel a bit disgusted. She frowned and said calmly, You're too kind, Lord. All right. Bai Fan said, Go to the camp and pick 100 Imperial Army soldiers to be your subordinates. The safety of Tongtian Street will be in your hands today, but you must remember that gate 30 to 50 of Tongtian Street needs to be carefully patrolled. You must not disturb the order there, otherwise, I will not let you off easily, even if you are Her Highness Savior. Yes. Lin Muyu cupped her hands, then this subordinate will take her leave. Go. After leaving the door, Wei Chou and the other Imperial Army guards followed closely behind. Lin Muyu frowned. What does Lord Bai Fan mean by gate 30 to 50? What kind of people live there? Wei Chou spurred his horse to catch up with her and rode alongside Lin Muyu. He lowered his voice and said, General, gate 30 to 50 includes the largest gambling dens, brothels, orphanages, mints, nursing homes, and so on. It is the economic center of the entire empire. The wealth there is comparable to that of a country, but there are also all kinds of hidden struggles. As far as I know, the owners of the gambling dens and brothels are all familiar with Lord Bai Fan. So when we patrol there, no matter what we see, we just pretend not to see it. Is that so? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, then what's the use of us patrolling? Wei Chou was startled and asked tentatively, is General not afraid that Lord Bai Fan will pursue this matter? Lin Muyu laughed heartily and said in a heroic manner, as the royal guards, we must be worthy of this pure white robe. How can we allow this robe to be stained with dirt? I, Lin Muyu, am a Virgo, a perfectionist. I can't tolerate even a speck of dust in my eyes. Wei Chou, do you think I'm right? Wei Chou was startled. He didn't quite understand what Virgo meant, but he still felt his blood boiling. He quickly cupped his hands and said, if General is really doing this for the sake of the world, then no matter what happens, Wei Chou is willing to pledge his life to follow General. Good. When they arrived at the Imperial Army's main camp, they selected 100 elites and 10 Imperial Army guards. These 110 people were Lin Muyu's personal forces. She led these 110 people out of Zetian Palace and slowly rode into Tongtian Street. Lin Muyu's white robe fluttered in the cool breeze and she suddenly felt proud of herself. Tongtian Street was the economic core of the entire imperial capital. There were more than 2,000 portals in total. Therefore they could only split their forces into 10 teams. Lin Muyu personally led 11 people including Wei Chou, the Imperial Army Guard and 10 Imperial Army Cavalry. The main targets for inspection were numbers 30 to 50. Since Bai Fan was a tiger, according to Lin Muyu's personality, she would definitely touch the tiger's butt. Chapter 108. Leading the warhorses, they slowly traversed through Tongtian Street. The passers-by on the road all cast respectful gazes. In the eyes of the commoners, this group of people dressed in white was a symbol of power, so many people gave way. Lin Muyu frowned and said in a low voice, the commoners are afraid of us? Wei Chou smiled awkwardly, yes, but also not. How so? Wei Chou said, the Imperial Army is the largest part of the imperial capital's defense force. It is said that 7,000 people can ensure the imperial capital is impregnable, but, on normal days the Imperial Army is actually in a state of inaction, and there are even frequent incidents of invading and harassing the commoners. Commander Qin Lei is busy with official duties, and does not have the time to care about these things. Lin Muyu frowned and continued to lead the horse forward. Shop after shop flashed past in front of them and very soon they arrived in front of a house with white walls. The faint sound of a woman crying could be heard from inside. With a creak, the door opened and a group of more than 30 women in ragged clothes walked out under the escort of guards. Each of their faces were ashen and their eyes were lifeless. Hurry up and leave, you lowly servant. A guard raised his hand and used the hilt of his sword to fiercely smash a woman's shoulder, causing her to stagger and fall to the ground. She raised her head and looked angrily at the guard but did not say a word. Lin Muyu was instantly petrified. That woman's eyes were so similar to Xianxia's. What's going on? Lin Muyu flipped over on the horse and rushed over. She had already raised her hand and pulled out the burning prairie sword. The long sword quickly pierced through and with a king, it broke the body of the sword that the guard raised again. How dare you, who is it? The guard quickly turned around and saw Lin Muyu riding over on a horse, and the insignia of a centurion on his collar. He hurriedly and respectfully said, General. Greetings to the general. What's going on with these women? Lin Muyu asked indifferently. The guard was startled and said, General, this is the nursery hall. These women are naturally the camp concubines. I am currently bringing them to the Imperial Army camp to carry out the daily task of washing clothes. Behind him, Wei Chou caught up and said, General, these are indeed camp concubines. What is a camp concubine? Lin Muyu asked. Ingji is. Wei Chou found it hard to say it out loud. He clenched his teeth and said, Ingji is also known as the laundry girl. She is responsible for washing clothes in the army. In addition, Ingji is also responsible for dispelling the soldiers' desires. So General. Lin Muyu looked at the group of girls in front of him. Each and every one of them had lifeless eyes. Some of them were even very young, but their bodies were already riddled with scars. Instantly, an indescribable anger rose in his heart. He raised his hand and grabbed the burning prairie sword that was circling back and said, Take them back. Guards, follow me into this nurturing hall. I want to see what this nurturing hall is exactly. General. Wei Chou hurriedly stopped him. This rule has been passed down since the era of the god of war Xiang went in. We can't break this rule. Lin Muyu's heart ached. She gritted her teeth and said, Wei Chou, are you willing to see them continue to suffer? If you can't bear it, then follow me in. Yes, General. 10 imperial guards got on their horses and charged through the door of the nurturing hall. The dozens of guards inside the door didn't dare to resist when they saw the imperial guards. They all stood there dumbstruck. This was a large courtyard. Not far away, the miserable cries of young girls could be heard. Lin Muyu spurred her horse forward and directly knocked open the door of a room in the corner. She saw a fat body wriggling on top of a young girl's body. Who is it? Fatty turned around with a ruthless expression and shouted, How dare you spoil my plans? You're courting death. He didn't even look at who it was. He grabbed a saber from the side and rushed over. His martial spirit appeared on the saber. This person's martial arts attainment wasn't low. Although he was fat, he was very agile. Lin Muyu flipped off her horse. She gently extended her sword and sucked the opponent's long saber. She quickly turned and retreated, bringing Fatty out of the room. The moment he was lured out of the room, Lin Muyu's entire body erupted with a wave of Dou Qi. The burning prairie sword suddenly pressed down, bringing the fatty's body down. She then turned around and gave a roundhouse kick. The dense Dou Qi wrapped around her combat boots and with a peng, she kicked the back of the fatty's head. How could the fatty withstand such an attack under the influence of anger? His entire body flew up and crashed into the wall. The bluestone tiles scattered all over the floor. The fatty's protective Jin Qi had completely shattered, and he had already fainted. The surrounding people stood there dumbfounded. Only a young guard muttered, Lord Zhao's cultivation level is at the second firmament of the Earth realm. He was defeated in one strike. This Lord Imperial Guard is so powerful. Lin Muyu raised his head and looked into the room. The girl was sitting naked on the bed, crying in pain. He slowly walked back into the room. He raised his hand and pulled the white battle robe from behind him. He put it on the girl and said, Don't cry. It's all over now. The girl suddenly tore off her battle robe and threw it on the ground. Her eyes were filled with despair. She looked at him with a pair of blood-red eyes and said, Stop pretending. You soldiers are all beasts, all beasts. Lin Muyu stood there in a daze. He didn't explain anything. He turned around and closed the door. There was a commotion outside. Another group of guards rushed in. The leader wore the rank of a chili arch. He said with a livid face, What happened? What's going on? One of the guards said, General Manjin, when Lord Zhao was opening a camp concubine, this royal guard suddenly barged in and knocked Lord Zhao out. Manjin looked at Lin Muyu with a face full of rage. Who are you? Do you know the rules? Attacking the nursery is the same as attacking the Empire's army. Do you, the Imperial Guard, understand? Can this place represent the Empire's army? Lin Muyu raised his eyebrows. His body was covered with dense Dou Qi and his martial soul was about to be unleashed. He looked at the group of soldiers in front of him and said through gritted teeth, You guys treat women as tools to satisfy your lust and humiliate them. You guys don't treat humans as humans and trample on them like this. You guys are not fit to call yourselves soldiers of the Empire. The territory of the Great Qin Empire would have been destroyed if it was left to useless people like you to protect it. Manjin's face was full of anger. He could feel Lin Muyu's powerful fighting spirit. He knew that he was no match for this squad leader. He pulled out his sword and said, Soldiers with spears surround him. I don't care if he's from the Imperial Guard or some other army. I, Manjin, will send him to the military law office for hurting people in the nursery. Come on. The corner of Lin Muyu's mouth curled up, revealing a handsome smile. He actually took the initiative to provoke them. Behind him, there was a group of girls in disheveled clothes shivering in the room. These girls were collected from various places. Their only purpose was to use their bodies to please the Empire's army. Go! Manjin shouted. Immediately, a large group of soldiers with spears surrounded them. The men brought by Lin Muyu were not to be trifled with. Wei Chou pulled out his sword with a roar and swung it. He concentrated his true energy into the blade and turned it into a sword aura that swept through the crowd. In an instant 7 or 8 spears were chopped off by him. As expected, none of the Imperial Guards were easy to deal with. The rest of the Imperial Guards also pulled out their swords. Some of them had already mounted their horses and were ready to charge. More and more soldiers poured into the room. The insignia on their shoulders indicated that they were from the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu even recognized that Man Jin was a chilly arch of the Imperial Guards. Weng Weng. Lightly raising her finger, she controlled the burning prairie sword that was enveloped in flames. Ready to attack at any moment, Lin Muyu said indifferently, "General Man Jin, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, is my big brother. I don't want to hurt the relationship between us. If you know what's good for you, immediately withdraw your men. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." After all, Man Jin was a chilly arch. How could he endure such humiliation? Waving his sword, he shouted, "What's the point of talking so much?" A group of soldiers with spears leveled their spears and charged in from all directions. Lin Muyu had a clear view of the situation. With a light wave of her left hand, the martial spirit gourd immediately condensed into the wall of the gourd. Dang dang dang, the spears of the Imperial army were repelled. Her right hand controlled the prairie fire sword to launch an attack. The blade of the sword transformed into a fiery rainbow that swept across. With a low roar, the fire dragon sword spirit instantly appeared. With a furious roar, it devoured a dozen of the spearmen. In the next moment, these people were already struggling to extinguish the flames while howling in pain. "Bastard!" Man Jin roared and slashed down with his sword with 3 streaks of light. His martial soul roar. There were no weak soldiers under a strong general. The moment Man Jin attacked, it was obvious that he was extraordinary. But Lin Muyu was stronger, much stronger. She swept her left arm across the horse's back and grabbed the shining pear blossom spear in her hand. With a light shake, the tip of the spear shook and collided with Man Jin's blade. Ding! The sound of the collision was very sharp. Man Jin felt a chill in his arm. Immediately after, he saw a beast soul appear on the pear blossom spear. It was the soul of the 11,000-year ice Qilin. Roar! The spear soul disappeared in a flash, and the ice Qilin's sharp claws swept across Man Jin's armor. Snowflakes fell, and in the next moment, Man Jin was forced to take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock and his entire body was frozen and numb. Frost crawled up his skin and he instantly lost his ability to fight. After all, the difference between Earth Realm and Heaven Realm was too great, so he could not be blamed. Retreat! Retreat! Man Jin's face was full of shock. The surrounding Imperial Guards also stopped. Everyone knew that with this small number of soldiers, they could not do anything to this young Imperial Guard. The battle ended in less than 2 minutes. However, the blood on the ground was proof that this battle had happened. Wei Chou held his blood-stained sword and said with a grave expression, "General, we have offended the Imperial Guard's patrolling troops. We have already made a mistake. What should we do now?" Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the young girls imprisoned in the nursery. There were about 200 of them. He frowned and asked, "Wei Chou, if we leave now, what will happen to these women?" Wei Chou was stunned. He said, "They will continue to live the fate that they deserve." "Then what will happen if I let them go?" "They will naturally be free, but General, I'm afraid you will be punished by military law." "Then let them go," Lin Muyu sighed softly and said, "If there is any responsibility, I will bear it alone." "Yes, General." Chapter 109. The Imperial Guards dispersed, leaving behind a few injured who were howling in pain on the ground. This calmed Lin Muyu down. She mounted her horse and ordered, "2 of you stay behind to treat the injured. The rest of you follow me to escort the girls out of Lanyan City." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "Yes, General. However, these girls are penniless. What should we do?" Lin Muyu searched her pockets and found some gold, silver and diamond coins. She took out a diamond coin and handed it to a soldier, saying, "Take this and exchange it for gold and distribute it to these girls. Each of them will get 5 coins. If there's not enough, I'll make it up to you later." Wei Chou took out a bag of gold and said, "What are you saying, General? I've already given them the money. How can I let you make up for the lack? The Imperial Guards will be here soon." Lin Muyu looked outside the hall and said, "We must hurry. Otherwise we won't be able to leave once the Imperial Guards arrive. Yes, General. Soon, nearly 200 prostitutes came out of the recuperation hall in ragged clothes, including the girl who had just lost her virginity. When she finally walked out of the recuperation hall, a trace of life finally appeared in her eyes. In fact, being able to live was more important than anything, even more important than chastity. Sometimes human nature was like this. Lin Muyu escorted these girls out of the city. She had a patrol token on duty, so she didn't encounter any obstructions when she left the city. The autumn wind was warm outside the city. The group of girls each took out a gold and knelt by the side of the road, thanking her sincerely. Some of them even hugged their heads and cried. Lin Muyu sat on her warhorse and closed her eyes. Through the spirit pulse technique she could feel the sound of hooves in the distance. She pointed to the south and said, "There's a village about 3 miles south. Go live there and don't come back." "Thank you, sir, thank you." The women cried and supported each other as they left. In less than 5 minutes the heavy sound of iron hooves could be heard, and a large group of imperial soldiers rushed out of the city. There were at least 1,000 of them, but Lin Muyu recognized the leading general. It was Luo Lai, the chilly arch who had brought him into Lanyan City for the first time. "You." Luo Lai's sword-like eyebrows furrowed as he urged his horse forward. "You're really too reckless. Do you know how much trouble you've caused? Letting 200 concubines loose is a capital offense in the army." Lin Muyu said apologetically, "Lord Luo Lai, I'm really sorry. This time I injured a soldier of the Imperial Guard. I was indeed too rash, but I really can't bear to see a girl being humiliated in front of me. If I can endure all of this, then I don't deserve to wear this white robe. I'm sorry." Sigh. Luo Lai let out a long sigh. The nursery hall is where the Imperial Army gathers the concubines in Lanyan City. It's directly under the jurisdiction of the Divine Marquis Constabulary. You've destroyed the nursery hall this time. The Divine Marquis Constabulary will definitely not let you off. Based on Divine Marquis Xing Yifan's attitude towards you, there's no way he'll let you off this time. What do you plan to do? Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "I'll take responsibility for my own actions. I'll go to Zetian Palace myself to see His Majesty and accept my punishment." Luo Lai nodded. "We'll split into 2 groups. I'll leave 500 cavalrymen to escort you to Zetian Palace. You must be careful. Before you reach Zetian Palace, don't fall into the hands of the Divine Marquis Constabulary or the Military Police Battalion. Xing Yifan and Xiang Yu aren't easy to deal with. I'll immediately look for Lord General Feng and Lord Qin Lei. With their pleas, perhaps His Majesty will be lenient." Thank you, Lord Luo Lai." "Sco. The Imperial Guard will have to confiscate your weapons first. Is that all right?" After handing over the Burning Prairie sword and Pear Blossom spear, Lin Muyu dismissed Wei Chou and the rest of the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards, allowing them to return to the patrol station to hand in their orders. Wei Chou was extremely unwilling, but in the end he could only leave indignantly and watch as Lin Muyu was escorted by a group of Imperial Guards to Zetian Palace. Skyspan Street was extremely lively. The commoners surrounded the 2 sides of the street and looked at the Imperial Guards formation from afar. They were pointing and discussing something. After traveling for a short distance, a troop of soldiers galloped over from afar. Their armor was bright, and there was a golden eagle insignia embedded on their chest plates. They were from the Military Police Battalion. The bloodbath spear in Xiang Yu's hand drooped down, suffused with a blood-red luster. He abruptly raised the spear and shouted in a low voice, "Audacious Lin Muyu, how dare you defy the Empire's military law and wreak havoc in the nursery hall? Men, arrest him and bring him back to the Military Police Battalion." Lin Muyu's brows were tightly knitted. The Imperial Guard centurion cupped his fists and smiled. "This general greets Lord Xiang Yu. Lin Muyu has already been arrested by this general. The Imperial Guard will escort him to Zetian Palace to await His Majesty's punishment. There's no need for Lord Xiang Yu to worry." "Is that so?" Xiang Yu's arm trembled slightly and raging flames surged onto the spear, transforming into a ferocious tiger martial soul. It was a first-grade martial soul, trampling fire tiger. His arm lowered slightly and he urged his horse to gallop over. The bloodbath spear was covered in raging flames as he laughed. "There's no one Xiang Yu can't capture if I want to." The Imperial Guard's centurion was stunned, and he didn't even have the courage to draw his sword. Xianxia had long stepped into the second level of the heavenly stage and was a heavenly king powerhouse. With such a huge disparity in strength, how could a mere centurion dare to fight with Xianxia? Get out of my way. Lin Muyu abruptly urged her horse to knock the centurion away. She opened her palm and the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall instantly condensed, taking on Xiangxia's determined attack head-on. Ping. The trampling fire tiger roared incessantly, and the bloodbath spear produced a whirling force, piercing through the black tortoise shell like an awl. Xianxia roared and his tiger eyes were filled with rage. Break for me. Another loud sound, and the dragon scale wall was also pierced through, and the bloodbath spear pierced towards Lin Muyu's neck with a biting cold flame. Hua. At that critical moment Lin Muyu dodged to the side, and the bloodbath spear left a bloody mark on his neck. He flipped off his horse and with a quick stride he arrived beside the swordsman lieutenant. He opened his palms slightly and the prairie fire sword was unsheathed. As soon as he turned around he saw the blazing bloodbath spear flying towards him like lightning. He had no time to dodge and could only use the prairie fire sword to block. Ping. Sparks flew everywhere. Xiangxia's strength was just too strong and he was sent flying backwards, crashing into a wall behind him. Struggle before death. Xiangxia laughed coldly and suddenly lifted his left arm. Flames swirled around his fist and he roared, "Fire Cloud Fist." The whistling fist carried with it a monstrous power. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth and hurriedly raised both his palms, instantly raising his dou qi to the maximum, and the dragon scale wall plus black tortoise shell was formed once more. Bang! The flames formed a shockwave, pushing a group of Imperial Guards and military police back again and again. As for the citizens of Lanyan City who were watching from afar, they all covered their eyes and lowered their heads to avoid the impact of the shockwave. The person who felt the most uncomfortable was none other than Lin Muyu. Xiangxia's punch was very strange and the layers of flames rippled. Lin Muyu used his dou qi to strengthen the walls of the gourd and blocked 3 layers of the force. However, he didn't expect that there would be 3 more layers of force, each stronger than the one before. This was the marvel of the fire cloud mantra that Xiangxia had cultivated for many years. Many experts had been defeated by this punch. Bang! The moment the walls of the gourd shattered, Xiangxia's punch landed on Lin Muyu's chest armor, directly shattering the golden star insignia of the sacred temple's sparring master. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu concentrated the rest of his dou qi on his chest to withstand this blow. Bang! He slammed into the wall and terrifying cracks appeared on the brick wall behind him. Fortunately, he wasn't too seriously injured. His blood and qi were surging and he felt very uncomfortable. Heh! Xiangxia sneered and the bloodbath spear thrust forward like lightning. He was obviously going to kill Lin Muyu, and not bring him back to the military police camp for interrogation. Lin Muyu knew how strong the person in front of him was, but there was nothing he could do. His strength was completely suppressed, and his dou qi was almost exhausted in an instant. He couldn't summon his strength for a moment, and he couldn't even use the 7 luminaries' profound energy. Looking at Xiangxia's spear thrust forward, Lin Muyu had a feeling that death was approaching. She never thought that she would actually die here. This was probably the shame of thousands of transmigrators, right? Moreover, it was such a worthless death. Dying for 200 camp girls? Those transmigrators had all made great contributions, and their names would go down in history. In an instant Lin Muyu's mind was full of thoughts. At this moment, there was a sudden whistling sound in the air, and a broad saber carrying a majestic dou qi fell from the sky. It was the wind cutter saber. Feng Jixing was here. Playing. Xiangxia's surekill spear was directly repelled by Feng Jixing, and a cyclone surged between the two. Feng Jixing held the wind cutter saber and his face was filled with battle intent and anger as he said, "Lord Xiangxia, Lin Muyu is a royal guard. You want to kill him? Do you know that the royal guard is a title bestowed by the emperor? Do you have the qualifications to kill a royal guard?" Heh! Xiangxia raised the corner of his mouth with some disdain. The fire cloud art on his arm surged as he said indifferently, "Feng Jixing, I know you have a personal relationship with Lin Muyu. If you want to help him then come at me together. I Xiangxia am unparalleled in the world. So what if I fight the 2 of you alone?" Feng Jixing said, "You really aren't willing to let Lin Muyu off today?" "That's right. Xiang Yu's eyes were filled with killing intent as he said. He destroyed the nurturing hall and openly challenged the empire's military law. This is already equivalent to challenging the dignity of the god of war, Xiang Wentian. As Xiang Wentian's descendant, how can I allow such a person to live in this world? Lightly swinging the wind-cutter saber, Feng Jixing said indifferently, Lord Xiang Yu, I, Feng Jixing, have always respected you as a hero. But if you insist on killing you today, then you'll have to step over my Feng Jixing's corpse. As he spoke, Feng Jixing raised his saber and shouted, All Imperial Guards, listen up. This is a personal grudge between me and General Xiang Yu. None of you are allowed to make a move even if I, Feng Jixing, die in battle. Xiang Yu sneered, You're courting death. I've killed many heavenly realm powerhouses, but I've never killed an empire's commander. Then I'll start with you. Chapter 110. Do you still have strength? Feng Jixing held the wind cutter and asked in a low voice. Lin Muyu was recovering and said in a low voice, I still need a few more seconds to recover the flow of battle qi. Brother Feng, I'm so sorry. Silly boy, what are you talking about? Feng Jixing had his back to Lin Muyu, his white cloak fluttering, and said with a smile, You just did what I, Feng Jixing, wanted to do for many years but didn't dare to do. Heh. Lin Muyu was stunned and her heart warmed. The man in front of her was indeed like a big brother protecting her. Such a close friend was hard to find in a lifetime. Holding the burning prairie sword tightly, Lin Muyu suppressed the surging aura in her body in less than 10 seconds, regained control of the battle qi in her body, quickly summoned the martial soul gourd to condense the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall, and stood side by side with Feng Jixing. Feng Jixing growled, and the second-class martial soul, purple electric flame wolf, surrounded his body with fierce flames. Facing the challenge of two heaven realm powerhouses, Xiang Yu was extremely calm. He raised his hand and threw the bloodbath spear. With a clang, the spearhead went straight into the wall. He clenched his fist and his martial soul came out of his body. He said with a smile, I haven't fought for a long time. Come. As he spoke, he took the initiative to attack. His iron fist was surrounded by raging flames, and like a mad dragon coming out of the sea, he rushed towards Feng Jixing's saber. Feng Jixing didn't dare to be careless. His body sank slightly and the wind cutter was surrounded by a blue airflow. He suddenly turned around and slashed out a mighty blow. The first style of the wind cutter technique, Desert Gale. Many of the imperial generals were well versed in the wind cutter technique, but he was the only one who could use it as smoothly and domineeringly as Feng Jixing. After a collision, the fist force of the fire cloud fist was forcibly dispersed. However, Xiang Yu's punch was astonishingly fast, and the second punch followed, directly hitting Feng Jixing's protective battle qi. Feng Jixing took a few steps back, his face full of shock. Was this Xiang Yu's true strength? Xiang Yu laughed wildly, then turned around and blasted a punch towards Lin Muyu. In his mind, Lin Muyu was the weaker of the two, so killing him first was the best strategy. The burning prairie sword spun in the air with blazing lightning. Lin Muyu used lightning to control the sword with one hand and suddenly clenched her right fist. Streaks of blood-colored cyclones quickly condensed in the surroundings. It was a move of the seven luminaries' profound energy. Chaos of all life. Bang! The surrounding earth trembled slightly, and both Lin Muyu and Xiang Yu retreated several steps at the same time. A cyclone surged out with the two of them as the center. Both of them were shocked. Xiang Yu didn't expect Lin Muyu to have such a vigorous and domineering strength, and Lin Muyu didn't expect Xiang Yu to be able to eat the complete chaotic lumen of the common people without any injuries. Could it be that this person was stronger than a Saint Realm expert like Psong Baihe? Swoosh. For Feng Jixing's second slash, the battle saber was wrapped in hot sand, and the surface was suffused with a dazzling golden light. The purple electric flame wolf martial soul was added to the battle saber, and a fierce strike fell from the sky. Hot sand golden. Xiang Yu let out a low roar and streaks of chaotic flames rose above his arms, condensing into a fire lotus in the blink of an eye. He held a scorching fire lotus in one hand and blasted it out, shouting, Feng Jixing, have a taste of this father's chaotic 9 strikes. The first strike, chaotic fire lotus. Bang! Piercingly cold flames bloomed in the air, and Feng Jixing was forced to retreat along with his saber. However, his handsome face was full of determination. His battle chi soared in the air, and he raised his battle saber for the third slash. His body was wrapped in a violent wind, and the world suddenly darkened as if all the light was absorbed. This slash seemed to have become a storm, violent blade storm. The corner of Xiangyu's mouth curled up and his body slightly bent. Chaotic energy gushed out from his palm, and his feet suddenly stomped on the ground, crushing countless bricks. Bang! He left the ground. The third strike of Chaotic 9 strikes. Chaotic Heaven Splitter. Boom! The power of the storm and the chaotic energy collided in the air, and Xiangyu's violent and domineering power raged, and Feng Jixing was instantly sent flying along with his saber. Swoosh! Xiangyu turned around and saw a long sword with a scorching spiral of flames flying toward him. It was Lin Muyu's Dragon Flame Spiral Break. This strike was imbued with true dragon essence fire and he was going all out. Damn it, Xiangyu cursed under his breath. He could clearly feel how powerful this strike was. Without thinking, he spread his arms apart, and the chaotic energy surged in his palm, turning into a black vortex that blocked in front of him. This black vortex was like a black hole that could devour all power. Xiangyu's eyes widened and he roared, "You're courting death." The sixth strike of Chaotic 9 strikes. Chaotic Annihilation. Bang, bang, bang. The burning prairie swords spiraled through, and the sound of energy collisions constantly erupted in the dark force field of Chaotic Annihilation. Xiangyu's face was ashen and his veins were bulging. He almost used all the battle energy in his body to support the Chaotic Annihilation. Just when he was about to collapse, he saw Lin Muyu leap up from the ground. Her iron fist was surrounded by demonic energy and she directly punched at his chest. Two luminaries' demonic dance. Xiangyu was flustered. He raised his left arm and with a clang he knocked away the burning prairie sword. He raised his right arm in front of his chest, and his battle energy formed an aura shield to protect himself. Bang! Under the heavy strike, the second strike of the 7 luminaries' profound energy was finally effective. It forcefully dispersed Xiangyu's protective battle energy, and hit him heavily in the chest. But at the same time, the instant Xiangyu retreated, he also kicked Lin Muyu's abdomen heavily. With a bang, he was sent flying straight to the ground and he rolled very far away. The wall of the gourd instantly shattered. In front of the chaotic energy, it seemed like the gourd's defense was already useless. Landing lightly on the ground, Xiangyu rubbed his somewhat numb arm. The battle energy in his body was still very vigorous. He chuckled, walked towards Lin Muyu step by step and said, "The two of you working together doesn't seem to be much." Lin Muyu opened her hand and called back the burning prairie sword. Holding the sword hilt, she struggled to stand up. Her face was full of ash and the white robe behind her was also stained with a lot of flame dust. Right at this moment, a golden radiance blossomed behind Xiangyu. That was the radiance of the god-binding lock martial soul. Qinlei had arrived. The thunder split saber was covered with lightning. Qinlei directly jumped up from his warhorse and the saber shone brilliantly. It directly pierced through Xiangyu's protective battle energy and attacked the main body. Thunder split diffraction slash. This saber was extremely fast and also extremely sharp. Bang! Xiangyu quickly retreated, using the saber's force to retreat several dozen meters. With an incomparable fury on his face, he said, "Young Duke Qinlei, you also want to be enemies with me, Xiangyu, is that it?" Qinlei held the thunder split saber with a gloomy expression. "Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are my brothers. If you want to touch them, you'll have to ask my thunder split saber first." "Is that so?" Xiangyu's sword-like eyebrows rose and he revealed his arrogance. He said with a smile, "Then come at me together, young duke. I, Xiangyu, would like to see what it feels like to fight 1 against 3. Streaks of primal chaos cyclones rapidly spun and extended around him, actually forming a piercingly cold storm. It was as if a deity had descended to the mortal world, giving people the feeling that they had to look up to him. Primal Chaos 9 strikes, the secret technique that the war god Xiang Wentian left behind for his descendants. It could indeed be said to be unparalleled in the world. Feng Jixing supported himself with the wind cutter saber and stood up. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and looked at Lin Muyu from afar. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, forcibly raised her battle energy and strengthened the walls of the gourd. She nodded slightly, indicating that they could continue fighting. Go! Qin Lei roared and took the initiative to attack. The lightning force on the thunder split saber continuously extended and actually formed a force field with a radius of about 5 meters. He raised the long saber and swept it horizontally with a low shout. The saber's light went straight for Xiangyu. Thunder split saber's second strike. Thunder saber breaking flames. However, within the primal chaos, streaks of lightning flickered. Xiangyu used the power of primal chaos to condense a long spear flickering with lightning. He grabbed it in his hand and smiled. Go to hell. Swish. The primal chaos lightning spear went straight for Qin Lei. Bang. Lightning and flames mixed together. God-binding chains rose around Qin Lei to protect their master, but they still couldn't withstand the attack of the lightning spear. Qin Lei spat out fresh blood from his saber and fell back. Xiangyu had also taken the brunt of his attack. Xiangyu's body trembled slightly. His blood and qi surged and his expression turned even uglier. On the right, streaks of lightning rapidly converged. Feng Jixing poured the lightning force of his martial soul into the wind cutter saber and created the fourth style of the wind saber technique. Wild Thunder Saber. Ping. Feng Jixing slashed with his saber and was pushed back by the opponent's primal chaos force. Meanwhile, Xiangyu finally couldn't hold on any longer. A trickle of blood seeped out from the corner of his mouth. Feng Jixing, you bastard. Xiangyu's expression was ashen. However, a powerful force suddenly attacked from behind. He didn't even need to think to know that it was Lin Muyu's attack. In fact, Xiangyu had calculated everything, but he had overlooked Lin Muyu. He simply didn't expect this unknown brat to grasp a power that he had never heard of before. It was incomparably tyrannical and didn't even lose to the chaotic 9 strikes. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. Lin Muyu was going all out. This was already the second time she had used the power of the second luminaries in a day. Ping. Their fists collided and the air seemed to shatter. Cracks appeared on the houses not far away and some even collapsed directly. Pa. Streaks of blood splattered on the ground. Xiangyu's body trembled slightly, but his arms still maintained the posture of punching. Lin Muyu slowly took a few steps back. The muscles all over her body felt like they were on fire. The excessive use of the 7 luminaries' mystic force had ultimately resulted in a backlash. Fortunately, she had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique, and the power of her soul was much stronger. Therefore, she hadn't reached the point where she would instantly age due to the backlash. Are you all right? Feng Jixing limped over with his wind cutter saber and asked with concern. This brat didn't look like he was all right. Lin Muyu shook her head slowly. I'm fine. Where's Brother Feng? I'm all right too. Feng Jixing propped himself on the ground with his saber and walked over step by step. Commander Qin Lei, are you all right? Qin Lei sat on the ground and the power of primal chaos was still surging in his body. In reality, he had withstood Xiangyu's strongest attack. Fortunately, his physique was strong. If it was Lin Muyu or Feng Jixing, they might not be able to withstand Xiangyu's strongest attack. Hey, it's good that you're all right. Feng Jixing laughed. He wiped the blood stain at the corner of his mouth, looked at Xiangyu who was not far away and asked. General Xiangyu, do you still want to fight? Xiangyu's face was ashen. His Dou-Qi was almost exhausted. Even if he had made up his mind to kill, he had no more strength to fight. Just at this moment, the sound of horse hooves came from afar. It was an imperial guard holding a golden scroll. He said, His Majesty's decree orders Feng Jixing and Qin Lei to escort Lin Muyu back to Zetian Palace Hall. Yes. Feng Jixing was finally relieved. Chapter 111. The Zetian Palace's main hall was filled with hundreds of officials. The Emperor Qin Jin sat on the dragon throne with a solemn expression. His hand was on the hilt of his sword and his expression was extremely ugly. Lin Muyu's hands were tied and she was personally escorted into the main hall by Feng Jixing. The Holy Palace's battle robe on her body was still stained with blood. Some of it was hers and some of it was Xiangyu's. Behind her, Qin Lei and Xiangyu also walked in, causing the officials to be dumbfounded. Tell me. The Emperor Qin Jin looked at Lin Muyu coldly and said, This emperor specially pardoned you to join the Imperial Guard as a commoner. Why did you create such a disaster on your first day? destroying the nurturing hall and releasing more than 200 female soldiers. Do you know how big of a crime this is? Lin Muyu, do you know your mistake? I know my mistake. Lin Muyu readily admitted her mistake. Where did you go wrong? The emperor continued to ask. Lin Muyu said indifferently, you violated the military law. Since you know the military law, why did you release those 200 female soldiers? Qin Jin asked. Lin Muyu raised her head, her gaze like a clear spring, and said, Your Majesty, the female soldiers are also people and the daughter of an ordinary family. They shouldn't be treated like this. I know I violated the military law, but I don't think I did anything wrong. On the contrary, the military law is very wrong. Can raising female soldiers really increase the empire's combat power? What did you say? Qin Jin raised his eyebrows, revealing a trace of anger. The leader of the officials, Zheng Yifan, who was standing at the front, stepped forward and said, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu has no respect for the military law and should be executed immediately. The rules for female soldiers were personally set by the war god, Xianxia, and they have been unimpeded in the army for so many years. This brat actually dared to question Xianxuantian's foresight and even dared to contradict Your Majesty. This is simply disgraceful. Qin Jin said indifferently, Official Zheng is right. Lin Muyu, what else do you have to say? Lin Muyu's heart sank. Did this emperor really want to kill her? I have nothing to say, he said calmly. He could not go against the monarch anymore. A smart person should have a smart way of doing things. Instead of going against the monarch here and getting killed, he might as well endure the humiliation and wait until he was strong enough to change all this unfairness. Minister, how should Lin Muyu be punished for her crime? The emperor asked. The minister walked out slowly with a sinister smile on his face. He said, Your Majesty, this person has committed a crime that should be punished. He should be executed in the Zetian Palace as a warning to others. Qin Jin muttered to himself but didn't say anything. Feng Jixing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu only violated the military law because he doesn't understand it. Moreover, his loyalty to the Qin family has never changed. This general believes that he shouldn't be punished with capital punishment. Qin Lei also cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, this general also believes that Lin Muyu's crime shouldn't be punished. Your Majesty, please reconsider. The empire is in need of people. Lin Muyu is skilled in both the pen and the sword. He can't be killed. Zheng Yifan sneered. Do you think that our Qin empire still needs a frivolous brat to lead the country? Your Majesty, this humble subject believes that Lin Muyu should be executed immediately. Otherwise, everyone will dare to disobey the military law. The empire's army will collapse on its own. Minister Luo Xing cupped his fists and said, This humble subject also believes that this person must be executed. Luo Xing's son Luo Bin was a deacon of the spiritual medicine department. He had been injured by Lin Muyu before. It seemed that the stone that was thrown a long time ago had finally hit his head. Qin Jin's expression was uncertain. Obviously, he didn't want to kill a talent like Lin Muyu. However, Zheng Yifan and Luo Xing were pressuring him. If he didn't kill him, it would definitely cause a backlash in the officials' hearts. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from outside. The temple's Grand Deacon Lei Hong requests an audience. Before the voice even finished, Lei Hong had already entered the main hall, travel-worn. He waved his sleeves and cupped his fists, saying, This old subject Lei Hong greets Your Majesty. Elder Lei, you may rise. Qin Jin stood up and said very politely. It was enough to show how much he valued Lei Hong. He said, Elder Lei, you must have come to the Zetian Palace for Lin Muyu's matter, right? Lei Hong nodded and said, Yes, this old man is pleading on Lin Muyu's behalf. Qin Jin said, The officials want me to kill Lin Muyu, but Elder Lei is pleading on Lin Muyu's behalf. What do you expect me to do? Lei Hong's eyes shone brightly as he said, Your Majesty, Lin Muyu's crime is nothing more than releasing more than 200 concubines. He only saved 200 women. What crime is there? Your Majesty, the empire has flourished for thousands of years. How many women have died in the tents? They were born of parents and are actually the same as us. This old man would like to ask the heavens, where is the justice and righteousness in the matter of the concubines? Your Majesty subdues people with virtue and your prestige spreads throughout the world. Could it be that your majesty has never questioned whether the existence of the concubines is reasonable or not? Elder Lei Yu, Qin Jin was slightly stunned. The power of Lei Hong's words was obviously not something that Lin Muyu could compare to. If even Lei Hong was questioning the matter of the concubines, then Qin Jin had no choice but to reconsider. Lei Hong said indifferently, "Your Majesty, please forgive this old subject for speaking bluntly. Many of the concubines are young women, and some are even similar in age to Her Highness Yin. May I ask your Majesty, if Her Highness Yin was reduced to being a concubine as a father, what would your Majesty think? Would you rescue those concubines like Lin Muyu?" In this old subject's opinion, Lin Muyu is only doing something that others don't dare to do. She is not challenging the imperial authority or military law. Qin Jin pondered for a moment and sat down silently. Zheng Yifan, however, sneered and said, "Great Deacon, you have quite a big tone. The strategy of the concubines was personally formulated by the founding emperor, Qin Yi's god of war, Xiang Wentin. Our soldiers have gone on expeditions to the south and the north, relying on their blood and vigor. They have been away from home all year round and have never encountered a woman. They have risked their lives to charge and break through the enemy lines for the empire. Should we not give them the rewards they need after victory? This is the nature of lust. If we don't give them the concubines, are we going to allow our soldiers to force women from good families?" Lei Hong said indifferently, "The concubine has always been an existence that distorts human nature. No woman is willing to become a concubine, and the majority of the concubines in the empire's army are women who have been forced into it. The emperor has bestowed grace upon the world, so why can't he bring some grace to these pitiful women?" Minister Luo Xing sneered and said, "It's easy for Great Deacon to say. If the concubines are removed, I'm afraid the soldiers in the barracks will be in turmoil. When the time comes, the army will start a mutiny. Will Great Deacon bear this responsibility?" Lei Hong's voice turned cold as he said sternly, "Will a mutiny occur in an army without women? If that's the case, then the empire's survival is already at hand." "Lei Hong, watch your words," Minister Luo Xing shouted. "Don't think that you can be so insolent just because you're a third-generation doyen. The emperor is above, and everything here is decided by the emperor himself. It's not your turn yet." Lei Hong smiled faintly. "Minister Luo Xing, your tone is really big." At this time the Emperor Qin Jin's voice sounded, "My dear ministers, please stop arguing." Everyone looked at the emperor, and Minister Luo Xing said respectfully, "I wonder if His Majesty has a verdict?" Qin Jin nodded and said, "Considering that this is Lin Muyu's first offense, and that he once saved Xiao Yin's life in the dragon-seeking forest, he can be spared from death. But while he can be spared from death, he cannot escape punishment. Minister Zhenqing, can you think of a surefire way to punish Lin Muyu?" Zheng Yifan pondered for a moment and said, "Why don't we send him into the Tower of Babel?" "The Tower of Babel?" Lei Hong's body trembled and his gaze became fierce as he said angrily, "Zheng Yifan, why don't you go into the Tower of Babel yourself? His Majesty has pardoned Lin Muyu's death sentence, but if you send him into the Tower of Babel, he will still die." Zheng Yifan said, "That will depend on his luck. Moreover, no one has been sent into the Tower of Babel for 7 years, who knows what has happened inside. As long as Lin Muyu survives for a month in the Tower of Babel, then all his crimes will be pardoned. What do you think, Your Majesty?" Qin Jin nodded and said, "Approved. Minister Zhenqing will send Lin Muyu into the Tower of Babel. If he can survive for a month, then he will be reinstated as a royal guard." Feng Jixing hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, please reconsider. The Tower of Babel is filled with demons. How can a mortal survive for a month in the Tower of Babel? Your Majesty, please let you go." Qin Jin said faintly, "I have already made up my mind. General Feng need not say anything more. Guards, send Lin Muyu into the Tower of Babel. Send food and water to the tower once every 3 days. In addition, send 100 people from the Imperial Guards, Royal Guards and Military Police Battalion to guard the Tower of Babel. If Lin Muyu is really lucky, then he will naturally come back alive to see me." Lin Muyu raised his head and looked at the already aging emperor and said, "Your Majesty, although I don't know what kind of place the Tower of Babel is, if I come back alive, are you willing to consider banning the existence of female soldiers?" Qin Jin was slightly startled and his voice was very soft. Let's talk about it when you come back alive. Guards escort him to the Tower of Babel. Several temple warriors from the Zetian Palace walked forward, twisting Lin Muyu's hands as they walked out of the main hall. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and Lei Hong also followed after them. Feng Jixing's face was ashen and he said, "This is bad. This is bad." "Big brother Feng, what kind of place is the Tower of Babel?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing gritted his teeth and said, "The Tower of Babel is a tower so high that the top cannot be seen, and it is located in the ruins to the north of the imperial capital. It is said that there are many things that are neither human nor ghosts living in the tower, and it is impossible for a living person to come back alive. Many of the martial artists in the empire who have committed serious crimes have been sent into the Tower of Babel, but not a single one has come back alive. It is said that some people who have entered only to see piles of bones." Lin Muyu was silent for a few seconds and then said, "Maybe I am lucky?" Lei Hong said, "Foolish brat, no matter how lucky you are, you won't be able to walk out of the Tower of Babel alive." At that time, there were 2 experts with the strength of the sanctuary who entered the Tower of Babel, and their corpses were found in the end. "Do you think you are lucky?" Qin Lei held the burning prairie sword and handed it over to Lin Muyu and said, "Brother, you must come out alive." Lin Muyu looked at Feng Jixing and Qin Lei and couldn't help but feel a little emotional and said, "If I really can't come back alive, then we can only be brothers in our next life." Feng Jixing's eyes reddened and he turned around. "No, you can come back alive." Chapter 112. 4 or 5 miles to the north of Lonyuan City, adjacent to the imperial capital, the area that should have been prosperous was a barren jungle. There were even some imperial guards guarding the periphery. About every 100 meters there was a squad of 5 sentries. Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and Lei Hong protected Lin Muyu as they stepped into the forest. Xianxia led more than 100 heavy cavalry soldiers from the military police battalion and followed them from a distance. His mission was to personally witness Lin Muyu being sent into Tongtian Tower. As they went further and further away, blood-red thunderbolts appeared in the sky one after another. An ancient tower soared into the sky. It was impossible to tell how many levels it had. The tip of the tower was inserted into a dark vortex. The vortex was like the mouth of a giant beast in the sky. It seemed as if it would swallow the entire Tower of Babel at any time. Thunder and lightning flashed around the vortex, sweeping the surrounding land with gusts of wind. No one would have thought that there would be such a wonder so close to the imperial capital, Lonyuan City. Lin Muyu looked up and couldn't help but feel a trace of fear in his heart. He was immortal, how could he not be afraid in the face of such heavenly might? Feng Jixing grabbed the reins, looked up at the sky and said, "It is said that the Tower of Babel is the entrance to another plane, but no one has entered it since ancient times. It has stood here alone for tens of thousands of years. Even those who have the power of the divine realm are not willing to enter the Tower of Babel. After you enter, you must be careful. Try to stay on the first floor and don't go up. With your ability, you may be able to survive for a month." "Yes, I know." Lin Muyu slowly urged his horse forward. Suddenly he felt a gust of chilly wind sweeping towards him, causing his battle robe to sway incessantly. The war horse he was riding on let out a long neigh and stood up. He hurriedly grabbed the reins and clamped down on the horse's body. Only then did he not fall off. However, animals were intelligent. For the war horse to be so frightened, there must be some ominous things in Tongtian Tower. Lei Hong said, You must be careful." "Got it, Grandpa Lei Hong." Lin Muyu smiled brightly and patted the temple emblem on her chest. "I still have to return to the temple to be a training partner again. Otherwise, I don't know how Xiling and the other training partners will be bullied." Lei Hong couldn't help but laugh. His nose turned sour as he said, "Then Grandpa will wait for your return in the sacred hall." "It's a deal." Qin Lei carried the thunder-split blade to the bottom of the tower and ordered, "Open the door." Immediately, 2 of the royal guards, whose faces were filled with fear, raised their hands and opened the seal on the heavy metal door. The metal door was filled with rust stains and was already covered with vines. They pulled with all their strength but were actually unable to open the door. Qin Lei frowned and went forward to grab the door handle with his hand. With a low roar, he forcefully pulled the metal door open. Immediately, A gust of chilly wind with a sharp whistling sound attacked the face of the commander of the royal guards. Buzz. The god-binding chains responded and came out. The golden light instantly dispersed the haze. The god-binding chains was a first-grade true dragon martial spirit and was known as the world's strongest light attribute martial spirit. 3 golden chains circled around Qin Lei's body, protecting him from harm while the 2 royal guards rolled and crawled away. Qin Lei frowned and said, "Useless things." Feng Jixing escorted Lin Muyu all the way to the bottom of the tower and said, You must be careful." Lin Muyu looked at the pitch-black scenery inside the tower and took a deep breath. She gripped the burning prairie sword tightly and smiled at Qin Lei. "Big brother Qin Lei, I'm going in." Qin Lei was somewhat moved. His face was filled with reluctance as he said with a trembling voice, You must remember to come out. We are still waiting to beat that bastard Xianxia up with you." Not far away, Xiangyu's face darkened, but he did not flare up. The temple deacon Lei Hong was here, so Xiangyu did not dare to act rashly. After all, no matter how strong he was not Lei Hong's opponent. Rustle, rustle. Lin Muyu lifted her battle boots and stepped on the steps that were filled with weeds and dust. Just like that, she walked up step by step without looking back. Feng Jixing's concerned voice came from behind. Your body is injured. Stay on the first floor to rest and recuperate during the day. Do not go to the second floor no matter what. Dang. Lin Muyu closed the metal door with the back of her hand. Immediately, it was dark in front of her. Rays of light shone into the 4 walls of the tower. Fortunately, it was not completely dark like this. The sound of chains being locked came from the metal door behind her. She would not be able to get out within a month. Bang. The small door on the metal door was opened. An imperial guard brought in food and water. They were all dry rations, enough for 3 days. The sound of footsteps faded away. Presumably, everyone had already left. At this time, Lin Muyu finally had the time to look at her surroundings. The stone walls of the Tower of Babel were covered in a layer of haze. There were even some words that he could not understand carved on them. It was probably some totem culture. The first floor was empty. It was about 100 meters in diameter and was very wide. There was not even a single decoration. It was just empty. The spirit pulse technique automatically extended out, and her spiritual sense slowly rippled. Lin Muyu sat cross-legged and slowly adjusted her breathing. At the same time, she extended her spiritual sense and entered the domain of the second floor. Suddenly, she sensed 3 extremely tyrannical forces lying dormant on the second floor. These 3 forces were sometimes strong and sometimes weak. It seemed like they were ready to make a move. He closed his eyes. He had to recover his strength as soon as possible. Those unknown forces did not seem to want to kill him at dawn. It would be hard to say if they would do so at night. Opening the bag that Feng Jixing had prepared, there was a lot of kerosene inside. Lin Muyu could not help but smile. Feng Jixing was more meticulous. This way she would not have to worry about the light at night. After circulating the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant scroll 72 times, her whole body felt refreshed. Her meridians felt a sense of peace. Her injuries were basically healed. Moreover, the martial spirit gourd had been frantically absorbing the surrounding spiritual qi to replenish its consumed do qi. In less than a few hours, it had recovered to its peak state. Turning around, she looked into the distance. The rays of the setting sun were almost horizontal. The sun had set. The sky gradually darkened and the surroundings were silent. Only the faint sound of horse hooves could be heard in the distance. The Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards were all restricted to a distance of 1 li from the Tower of Babel. Moreover, it seemed like they did not dare to approach the Tower of Babel at night. Not long after, a strong wind blew outside. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. The light in the sky flickered. The dark vortex in the sky seemed to be wreaking havoc, forming a huge whirlwind that lingered around the Tower of Babel. Lin Muyu could not see the specific situation outside. However, she knew that there was something strange about the night here. Standing up, she lit a brazier and hung it on the wall. Then she ate some dry rations. Not long after, the sky completely darkened. Night had fallen. Under the detection of the spirit pulse technique, the few forces on the second floor were already restless. Lin Muyu also unconsciously held the hilt of the burning prairie sword. This sword was the only thing she could rely on here. Sha sha. A faint sound came from the stairs. Immediately, he vigilantly held the sword with both hands and his martial spirit slowly seeped out of his body. Jejia. Amidst the roar, a black shadow leaped down from the second floor of the staircase. Its sharp claws sliced through the air and went straight for Lin Muyu's neck. It was a killer move from the start. Lin Muyu was already prepared. She activated the falling star steps and slid her feet to avoid this attack. At the same time, the burning prairie sword drew an arc in the air and landed on the opponent's back. With a bang, sparks flew. The opponent screamed miserably and crashed into the wall. However, he quickly climbed back up. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally saw its true appearance. It was an ape. However, it was not an ordinary ape. Instead, it was an ape whose body was covered in a thick layer of stone. This was a stone ape. Its eyes were blood red and there were 4 golden lines on its head. It was clearly a spirit beast with a lifespan of 4,000 years. The blood-red light in its eyes was filled with violence. Suddenly, it leaped up and rushed over again. Jejia. This time, a flame appeared on its claws. A vast flame energy surged on its claws. Lin Muyu knew the pros and cons. She raised her left hand and directly summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. Black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were successful. She spat out her fighting chi and blasted out a demon sonic fist. Bang! The demon sonic fist didn't penetrate the stone layer on the stone ape's body. Instead, its sharp claws scratched a huge hole in the black tortoise shell. The flame energy collapsed, but it quickly recovered with the support of her recovery ability. Lin Muyu's heart sank. She quickly retreated several steps. Her eyes were cold and clear. She suddenly stomped on the ground and called out a gourd vine. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The vine quickly wrapped around the stone ape's body. How could she miss such a rare opportunity? Lin Muyu quickly circulated the true dragon essence fire in her palm. The burning prairie sword whistled through the air and directly blasted out with a dragon flame spiral break. At the same time, a chill came from behind her. There were still stone apes. 2 bloody lights rushed over from the darkness. The other 2 stone apes attacked. Lin Muyu quickly looked back and opened her palm. A gourd flower flew out of her body and spat out a mouthful of poison. The 2 stone apes were very intelligent and knew how powerful the poison was. They flipped their bodies in the air and dodged it. Behind them, blood splattered and screams of pain could be heard. The first stone ape had already been killed by the true Dragon Yuan Fire's Imperial Fire Sword attack. But Lin Muyu grabbed the hilt of her sword, and with a flash of her body she slashed and attacked the second stone ape. However, she felt a chill on her back and her shoulder was injured. The third stone ape cleverly avoided the defensive surface of the black tortoise shell, and directly attacked her back. Fortunately, she had tempered her skin like copper and bones like iron, so her injury was not serious. There was no time to turn around. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and a bloody light surrounded her left fist. She locked onto the position of the third stone ape with her spirit pulse technique and turned around to punch it. Chaos of all life. Amidst the miserable howls and screams, the stone ape heavily smashed into the stone wall of the tower. However, the material of the heaven-reaching tower seemed to be very hard. The stone skin of the stone ape had already shattered, but the stone wall did not have a single crack. Lin Muyu saw the opportunity and raised her hand. Using the Imperial Sword of Lightning, she flew out with the burning prairie sword. In the next moment, the third stone ape's neck was pierced. After its stone skin was destroyed, its defense was much weaker. With the sharpness of the burning prairie sword, it could be easily killed. Chapter 113. The last stone ape was almost scared out of its wits. Seeing its companions die one by one, it opened its mouth wide and screamed. It turned around and ran. Lin Muyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This stone ape was a 4,000-year-old spirit beast, yet it was so cowardly that no one could see through it. Crash! The green gourd vine broke through the stone and quickly bound the stone ape. The strength of the gourd vine was closely related to the strength of Lin Muyu's battle energy. No matter how the stone ape struggled, it couldn't escape the binding of the gourd vine. Lin Muyu's palms were filled with raging flames. She quickly spun the long sword in front of her chest. Streams of flames turned into spiraling fire energy that lingered around the sword body. She quickly broke through the stone ape. The stone ape's skin was very thick. The normal attack of the burning prairie sword couldn't penetrate it at all. However, it was a piece of cake to use the spiraling power to break through it. Bang! The stone layer shattered and mixed with blood. The stone ape screamed and left with its companions. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She used the spiraling break twice and the Xian energy of the first star. She had used about 30% of her battle energy. She didn't know if there were more powerful enemies waiting for her. She had to recover her strength as soon as possible. Holding the burning prairie sword, Zhou Xian dug out 2 4,000-year-old stone ape spirit stones from the skull of the three-headed stone ape. This was a type of rock-type spirit stone. If used to forge weapons, it would be very good. It would make attacks sturdy and ordinary opponents would not be able to block it. Sitting on the ground, she summoned the martial spirit gourd to refine the spirit of wild beasts. However, what Lin Muyu didn't expect was that the 6-layered green gourd seemed to be very picky with its food. It didn't even absorb any spirit of wild beasts before it was full. After several attempts, he couldn't refine the spirit of wild beasts. He had to give up. It seemed that Lei Hong's teachings were correct. After stepping into the heavenly realm, they had to rely on refining the spirits of wild beasts to increase their cultivation. This was because the power that heavenly realm experts needed was Dou Qi, and the spirit of wild beasts contained in the bodies of spiritual beasts was Earth Qi. The two belonged to different natures. If a heavenly realm expert wanted to increase his cultivation, he could only rely on his own hard work and cultivation. It was no wonder that Feng Jixing and Qin Lei had not broken through after stepping into the first layer of the heavenly realm. With their talent, they should have broken through quickly. However, Lin Muyu was not anxious. Although his strength was increasing slowly, it was very stable. This was because the mental cultivation method of the dragon forging bone remnant scroll could slowly increase his strength. At most, it would take 2 years or at least half a year. It was only a matter of time before he stepped into the second tier of the heavenly realm. However, he was still a little impatient, especially after he witnessed Xiang Yu's strength. Xiang Yu was known as the #1 person in the younger generation of the empire. This was definitely not an undeserved reputation. With his strength alone, he could contend against Feng Jixing, Qin Lei, and Lin Muyu. In the end, it could also be considered a draw. This was a little too shocking. Feng Jixing and Qin Lei, these two young elites, were both dragons among men, while Xiang Yu pretty much belonged to the category of dragons among dragons. When he thought of Xiang Yu's eyes that were filled with killing intent, Lin Muyu could not help but feel a chill in his heart. Xiang Yu's bloodline originated from Xiang Wentian. He had the right to be unruly. Furthermore, Xiang Yu wholeheartedly wanted to get rid of Feng Jixing. This point also made Lin Muyu worried. Feng Jixing's style of doing things was eclectic and open-minded. The Imperial Guard that he commanded had always been the strongest barrier of the Imperial capital. If Xiang Yu wanted to obtain the position of the #1 person in the Empire's army, he had to get rid of Feng Jixing. After adjusting his breathing for close to 2 hours, the martial spirit gourd greedily absorbed the spiritual energy in the surroundings. What made Lin Muyu more gratified was that the spiritual energy in the vicinity of Tongtian Tower was very abundant. It was even more vigorous than in Lanyan City. Therefore, the battle energy in his body had mostly recovered. It seemed that coming to Tongtian Tower was not to throw away his life. Instead, it seemed that he had found the best place to cultivate. The night was long. He circulated the Forging Dragon Bone Remnant Scroll and the Spirit Pulse technique again and again to temper his body and soul. Meanwhile, the light from the oil lamp above his head flickered faintly. When dawn was about to break, his spiritual sense once again sensed a powerful force. Lin Muyu immediately became alert. He raised his hand and grabbed the hilt of his sword. Although the Spirit Pulse technique was mysterious, it could not extend to the 3rd floor. It seemed that there was something restricting him on the 2nd floor. It was like a barrier. The night wind blew on the Holy Temple's battle robe. At this moment, how could he care about the cold? His clear eyes were like twinkling stars in the night sky as he stared at the stairs in the distance. However, he did not see anyone. He did not even see a spiritual beast. Could it be a false alarm? At this moment, the spiritual pulse technique suddenly pulsated not far away, and a surge of energy leaped up. Lin Muyu let out a low grunt. and raised her hand to unleash a blazing hot Dou-Qi storm. Voila! The Dou-Qi swept across the ground and quickly blew out a human figure. As expected, the person who came was invisible. It was a very thin person with 2 daggers in his hands. The shape of his face looked very twisted and strange. It was like the face of an ugly monkey. His beard was not long, but every strand of it was like iron thorns piercing out of his skin. Fortunately, the spirit pulse technique could sense him. Otherwise, he would have been ambushed by this person. Who are you? Lin Muyu held the sword in his hand and asked calmly. The person licked his lips. His expression was indescribably wretched. He said, "It has been many years since someone was sent to Tongtian Tower. I thought that the empire was safe and sound. I did not expect that a new person would come today. Hehe kid, you are only my prey. Wait until you go to hell and ask me who I am." As he said that, he suddenly waved his dagger. A milky white light appeared on his arm. Dou-Qi. Another heaven realm ranker. Although the dagger was short, the Dou-Qi that surged out was at least 2 meters long. Lin Muyu quickly got into position. The wall of the gourd was placed in front of his chest to block the opponent's attack. However, he only felt his blood boil. The strength of the person's Dou-Qi was stronger than his. Dang dang dang. Her dagger was parried by the burning prairie sword several times in a row. Lin Muyu looked for an opportunity and gave a heavy kick. Dou-Qi shrouded her combat boots and sent her opponent flying a few steps back. The burning prairie sword flashed and instantly unleashed 5 slashes. This was the speed formula of the Imperial Wind Sword technique. The storm-like attacks could catch the opponent off guard. However, the thin assassin in front of him was not weak. His eyesight was excellent. With a flick of his wrist, the dagger danced like a butterfly, dispelling all of Lin Muyu's attacks. However, a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He did not think that this kid who had just been sent to Tongtian Tower would be so strong. Papa! Papa! Lightning flashed. Lin Muyu directly threw the burning prairie sword, using the thunder sword technique to attack the opponent. The assassin was stunned. He had never seen such an attack pattern before. He quickly brandished his dagger to parry the attack. Plang. He managed to parry the attack, but his arm suddenly went numb. Lin Muyu's attack was too strong. Damn it! He cursed and roared in rage, Yi Sha. In the darkness, his martial spirit was quickly released. It was like a ball of dark elements surrounding his body. Immediately after, the space seemed to distort and turned into a chaotic darkness. The assassin's figure disappeared again. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She finally understood why this person could become invisible. It turned out that he was relying on the power of his martial spirit to cover his eyes. She quickly activated the spirit pulse technique and sensed every trace of power in the surroundings. As long as the opponent attacked, his aura would definitely fluctuate strongly. At that time, she would not have to worry about not being able to find his position. However, this assassin seemed to be very patient. He did not appear for a full 10 minutes. Lin Muyu frowned. She could not help but feel a little anxious. At this moment, a cold wind suddenly blew in front of her chest. The opponent's 2 daggers had joined together and launched an attack. It was similar to Lin Muyu's fire sword technique. His daggers were surrounded by a spiral of dark energy, which quickly broke through the black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall. So strong. The defensive layer was broken through. There was no way to dodge. Either his heart would be pierced or he would choose to attack other parts of his body. In a flash, Lin Muyu reacted. She moved half a meter with the star steps. In the next moment, she felt a sharp pain in her arm. A dagger had pierced through her arm and she was nailed to the stone wall. Hey! The opponent showed an ugly smile. I've already said you are my prey. Any resistance is futile. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled coldly. The power of her martial spirit spread out in an instant. Vines extended from the ground. It was another entanglement ability which quickly bound the opponent's feet. Damn it! The assassin glanced at the vines on his feet and said, "How dare you show off in front of me with such insignificant skills?" He stomped his foot and unleashed his combat energy, shattering countless vines. However, when he looked up, he saw a calabash spitting poison at him. Chi armor. He let out a low grunt and his chi armor blew away the poisonous liquid. However, at this moment he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. It was Lin Muyu's full force punch. 2 luminaries' demonic dance. With the sound of ribs breaking, the assassin retreated with a pale face and fell to the ground. The power of the two luminaries' demonic dance was so powerful that he could not withstand it at all. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. She endured the pain and pulled out the dagger from her arm. He looked at it. Fortunately, there was no poison on it. She quickly took out a bottle of healing medicine and poured it on the dagger. She then looked at the assassin who was struggling on the ground and said, "Do you still think I'm your prey now?" The assassin exhaled more than he inhaled. He was about to die, but he still grinned and said, "So what if you kill me? The Blood Lord will not let you go." Heh, Blood Lord? Lin Muyu frowned. Who is the Blood Lord? The assassin did not speak. He tilted his head and died decisively. Lin Muyu was filled with hatred. It seemed that this invisible assassin was not the leader of the upper floors. It was already a little difficult for her to deal with this assassin. If the Blood Lord came personally, would she still have a chance? She bent down and searched the assassin's body. She found 2 diamond coins and a spiritual stone. She felt the spiritual power of the stone. It should be a fire spiritual stone that was around 5,000 years old. Not bad. Chapter 114. In the Zetian Palace Hall, a group of 12 maids were holding candles and lighting up the Xieji Palace lanterns. The candlelight shone on the white jade floor like flashing red stars. The late autumn breeze blew and the candlelight began to sneeze. One of the maids couldn't help but sneeze and said in a low voice, "The weather is getting colder." The maids whispered a few words and left the main hall of the Zetian Palace Hall, leaving only the bright moonlight shining on the floor tiles of the main hall. Whoosh whoosh. The night breeze ruffled her dark purple cloak. Qin Yin frowned slightly and walked quickly on the long corridor of the palace. The maids behind her could barely keep up with her. One of them said, "Your Highness, please slow down." However, Qin Yin's speed was not slow. She leaped and landed on the surface of the lotus pond in the pavilion. A ripple spread out, and this beautiful princess had already landed on the other side of the pavilion. Her snow-white skin was glowing with a faint golden light, and her god-binding chain's martial soul was already on the verge of being released. The temple warriors hurriedly stopped her and said, "Your Highness, what are you doing?" "I want to see my father. His Majesty has already gone to bed. He has ordered that no one is to disturb him." "Then I want to see him too." Qin Yin raised her brows and her beautiful face was filled with charming arrogance. She insisted, "If you don't move aside, don't blame me for making a move." The guards looked helpless. At this moment Qin Jin's voice came from inside the room. "Let Xiao Yin in." "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Yin pushed the door open and entered. She saw Qin Jin reading a scroll under the candlelight. His face was full of fatigue and under the candlelight this 47-year-old emperor's hair had already turned white. Qin Yin's heart ached when she saw this and she called out, "Father." She didn't call for her father. Qin Jin couldn't help but laugh. He raised his head to look at his daughter and said, "It's been a long time since you called me that. Back then I wanted you to call me Imperial Father, but I had to teach you for a very, very long time." Qin Yin's eyes reddened. She walked forward and gently knelt down in front of the table. The girl's beautiful hair flowed down her shoulders and fell on the files on the table. She looked at her father and suddenly didn't know what to say. "Are you here to plead for Lin Muyu?" Qin Jin asked. "Yes." Qin Yin nodded her head and said, "Father, Lin Muyu is an extremely simple and persistent person. I can almost guess that he wouldn't sit idly by when he saw Ying Ji being humiliated. He is just that kind of personality. You can't blame him for bringing people to destroy the nursery hall. Just like what Master Lei Hong said, the nursery hall has always lost its humanity, isn't it?" Qin Jin looked at his daughter with gentle eyes. I know everything. How can Imperial Father not understand what kind of person Lin Muyu is? But there should be a limit to how much he hates evil. As a member of the Imperial Guard, he personally brought people to destroy the nursery hall and publicly disrupted the Empire's military deployment. If it were anyone else, they would have been beheaded long ago. But Father. Qin Yin pursed her red lips, her beautiful eyes filled with stubbornness as she said, "Ah, you is my savior. If it wasn't for him, I would have died from poisoning in the dragon-seeking forest a long time ago." Just based on this alone, father should be exceptionally kind to him. Qin Jin's eyes dimmed. Xiaoyin, there are many things you don't understand. You're still young. What do I not understand? Father, tell me. You weren't in the Great Hall today, so you don't know the Divine Marquis and the minister's words. Qin Jin sighed. Half of the Qin Empire was conquered by Xiang Wentian. In the empire's military, Xiang Wentian is a god and his status far surpasses that of an emperor like me. Xiaoyin, do you know that the commanders of the 4 armies stationed in the Lingnan region haven't participated in the annual military reward ceremony for 3 whole years? Even when Imperial Father sent them a written order, they didn't reply. Qin Yin was stunned. Father, are you saying that the commanders of the Lingnan region have intentions of rebelling? I don't know about that. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes. 3 of the commanders are Xan Yifan's trusted aides, but the last one is an old general left behind by the late Emperor Fan Kai. If even he has intentions of rebelling, I'm afraid that Lanyan City's control over the entire world will change. That's why I suspect that someone is intercepting letters from Lanyan City in the Qinling Mountains. Qin Yin bit her red lips. Father, why don't we send someone to Lingnan to take a look? There's no need. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and lay down on the chair behind him. Xan Yifan submitted a report this morning stating that the major armies of Lingnan are at war with the barbarians at the southern border, so communication is inconvenient. The birds used to deliver the letters have been shot down by the southern barbarians, so the letters can't be delivered to the commanders. However, Xan Yifan's report also contained a letter of allegiance. It's a joint letter from the 4 commanders, and their loyalty to the empire remains unchanged. Qin Yin looked at her father with her beautiful eyes. Father, although the Divine Marquis has great influence in the empire's army, but father should be able to see that Xan Yifan is no longer the Xan Yifan from 10 years ago. He has changed too much, becoming more arrogant and willful. He doesn't even respect you, the emperor, in his eyes. Why don't? She blinked. Secretly order Brother Qin Lei and Commander Feng Jixing to find a chance to dissolve the Divine Marquis's military power in Lanyan City? How? Qin Jin sighed and looked at his daughter dotingly. The Divine Marquis's power in the Empire's army is already well established. As long as Xan Yifan doesn't have any rebellious thoughts, it's fine. Moreover, the Qin Empire has ruled the world for thousands of years and had nearly 100 emperors. The Qin bloodline has long been deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Xan Yifan's surname alone is enough to prevent him from ascending the throne. But, Qin Yin bit her red lips. If we blindly allow Xan Yifan's power to grow, how will we live in the future? Don't worry, Qin Jin said. At least the Imperial Guards and Imperial Guards are still in the hands of our own people. I've also secretly met with the vassals of Tsangnan Province and Northern Province. With Duke Kenglin and Duke Muyun in charge of the northern region, the world won't be in chaos. Oh right, Xiaoyin, you haven't seen your grandfather for a long time, right? Grandfather. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. He's busy with work. It's been a long time since he came to Lanyan City to see me. Qin Jin couldn't help but smile. Then in a few days I'll let General Feng personally lead the Imperial Guards to escort you to Muyu City to see your grandfather. Muyu City is where your mother grew up. You should have gone to see it long ago. Qin Yin nodded and suddenly changed the topic. Father, is there really no way to release you from the Tower of Babel earlier? He might be able to hold on for 1 or 2 days, but he'll definitely die in the Tower of Babel if it's any longer. I really can't. Qin Jin shook his head and sighed. If I release Lin Muyu earlier, Xan Yifan and Luo Xing will definitely put pressure on me. Maybe then they'll find a reason to rebel. Right then. Can I go to the Tower of Babel to see you? Qin Jin's tone immediately became stern. You're not allowed to go to the Tower of Babel. That's a forbidden area. Lin Muyu can die there, but you can't. Xiaoyin, don't forget that you're the heir of the family. Your status is different. Qin Yin's eyes were red and filled with tears. She looked at her father faintly and stood up to bow like a lady. Then she turned and left. When she was a few meters away from the door, she suddenly stopped and said softly, Father, if Lin Muyu dies in the Tower of Babel, I'm afraid I'll never forgive you. Creak. The door opened and Qin Yin floated away. Qin Jin stared blankly at the empty door. He couldn't help but shiver in the cold wind. The weather was getting colder and colder. He muttered to himself and felt a strange feeling in his heart. He was proud to have such an outstanding daughter, but at the same time he was worried for her. Qian was so kind, so she was probably not suitable to be the heir of the family. The only thing he could do was to handle the relationship between Qihai City, Muyu City and Lanyan City. Muyu City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Su Muyun, the father of Qin Yin's mother, Empress Jingda. Muyu City had a strong army with more than 200,000 soldiers. Qihai City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was guarded by Tang Xiaoxi's grandfather, Tang Lan. Its army was in no way inferior to Muyu City. Moreover, the Qihai Tang sect had long been established in Qihai City. This was also the biggest reason why Qin Jin had allowed Qin Yin to have such a close relationship with Tang Xiaoxi since she was young. Perhaps the relationship between Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi could maintain the close ties between Lanyan City and Muyu City? After thinking for a long time, this late emperor stood up and went to rest. That night Lin Muyu did not sleep at all. He was constantly on guard against any enemies that might come at any time. However, after that assassin, no one else came looking for trouble with him. Instead, he practiced the dragon forging bone remnant scroll again and again. That night he went through 72 circulations a few times and the strength of his dou qi increased by quite a bit. When a ray of light shone on the wall, he knew that it was dawn. After eating some dry rations, he hugged his long sword and went to sleep. He did this repeatedly, sleeping during the day and resting at night. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed and he hadn't been ambushed again. However, there was a problem that was bothering him. The corpse in front of him and the stone ape's corpses were emitting a faint stench. If he just left them like this, they would rot very quickly. When that happened, he would only be able to harm himself. After thinking about it, he decided that he had to get rid of these corpses. He reached out and grabbed the assassin's leg, dragging him step by step towards the stairs. The assassin was already dead. His head was banging against the stone steps, but he probably didn't feel any pain anymore. He released the spirit pulse technique and entered the 2nd floor. He didn't find any enemies, so he directly went up to the 2nd floor. However, the scene in front of him shocked Lin Muyu. The 2nd floor was filled with skeletons and piles of white bones were scattered everywhere. Needless to say, the people who were imprisoned in the Tower of Babel were not killed immediately. Many people were like him, dealing with the corpses here, and in the end he became one of the corpses. Thinking of this, Lin Muyu couldn't help but shiver. He muttered to himself, Sora Aoi, Hitano Yui Okita Aoi and other teachers, please bless me so that I don't die here. That you're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.